Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the city employee at the back of the room. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to let council know your opinion without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
Like to call the regular meeting to order, May 6, 2024. Everybody marked present. We got everybody here? City Clerk? Yes?
Yes, all members are present.
All right. Please join Councilmember Loretano in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we ask that you give this council guidance in these tough times to make the wise decisions for the budget that will best help our citizens and best help our community to grow stronger and to be a safe place for all of our residents to thrive. We ask that you watch those that protect us at home. We ask that those who serve us abroad. We ask that you give us guidance and wisdom as we go into this summer season. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
It'd be nice if it was actually on. That's
all right. We have two communication items tonight. First, I'd like to recognize the Goodyear student athletes for their successful seasons in state championship. I have a little something here to read. Should I read down here? Here's fine? Okay. I want to recognize a special group tonight for their outstanding athletic achievements. Trevinium Preparatory Academy girls volleyball team are the state championships in the 2A conference. Congratulations, ladies. Coach Beth Wilson led this team to a 34-5 season in which they were undefeated at home. That is awesome. This is the first AIA state championship in school history. Ava Norst was named Offensive Player of the Year. Natalie Guerrero was named Conference 2A Player of the Year, and Coach Wilson was named Conference 2A Coach of the Year. Man, that's a lot of accolades there, guys. Congratulations to you all. Let's have a round of applause for them. Everybody, please come forward for a photo.
It's better than the pit, like the orchestra pit, the mosh pit.
Should we stand up?
Come on up, Bruce. Next item is for the 2024 Spring Training Review. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the public, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Bruce Kessman, Ballpark General Manager. And it's hard to believe that we just celebrated 15 years of spring training here in Goodyear. This past season, we drew a total of 146,284 fans. We had scheduled 30 games in 30 days. However, we did have one rain out on March 15th. And of course, we had a lot of fun this year celebrating our 15th anniversary of Goodyear Ballpark. So with that 146,000 attendance, this is how we stacked up against the other teams in the Cactus League. This is the third year in a row now that the Cactus League has seen an increase in attendance. And here in Goodyear, that marked a 13% increase of attendance over last year. Of course, we spent a lot of time this season celebrating our 15th anniversary. We had 4 giveaways with the camouflage hat, drawstring bag, the pint glass, which was ever popular, and the cooling towels. The picture right there in the middle is Nancy Veach, who was a cancer survivor that we honored during one of our games with a Home Run for Life celebration with the Guardians and through the City of Hope. It was a great moment for celebration. Of course, we have a lot of fun with our in-game entertainment, throwing out T-shirts with the 15-year logo. That was really popular this year with the fans. We had a lot of events this year as well. We had the Navy Band. We had a swearing-in ceremony prior to one of our games. And the picture there on the right, it was part of our new Major League Baseball spring breakout game. So there was showcased the top prospects for the Guardians and the Reds organization. It was actually Major League Baseball wide, very popular, which will be coming back for next year as well. In addition to the spring breakout game, we also had the ADA Tour de Cure, the bike ride that started and finished at Goodyear Ballpark. And speaking of events, I'm actually going to introduce Wendy Bridges here, Economic Development, who has some success with their events at Goodyear Ballpark.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Wendy Bridges, Economic Development Director. This spring training, we had the honor of hosting 4 events at the Goodyear Ballpark, and the purpose of the events that we hosted was to highlight the great community of Goodyear and to promote Goodyear's value proposition and grow our relationships with different groups. Each of the 4 events that we held had a different theme. We focused on existing businesses in Goodyear for business retention and possible expansion. We focused on the Innovation Hub, our different industry sectors, medical, manufacturing, specifically GSQ area retail and restaurants, as well as general retail. We had over 100 attendees as our guests at the events. Some of the local companies that were able to join us included some of my favorites, Colados, Saddle Mountain, En Route, Romans, and Lakeside Grill. Our partners who attended included the Arizona Commerce Authority and Westmark, as well as Globe and Red Development and TGen. We also had a variety of real estate brokers and developers specific to the retail industry. That was one of our focuses this year. And we had several prospective businesses. So these events really provided a great opportunity for our Goodyear elected leadership to meet and visit with our partners and our existing businesses, but also to talk about Goodyear's value proposition for companies that are looking to come to Goodyear, hopefully, and run their business here. So I really want to express to you how much we appreciate having such a fantastic amenity in our community. It really gives us a great opportunity to highlight some of the very best things about Goodyear, and spring training and our beautiful ballpark is one of our great amenities in our community. So we really appreciated that. And of course, the relationship building and the progress that we made on developing our relationships with prospective businesses as well. We received incredible feedback from the attendees. In particular, our existing businesses really appreciated having that opportunity to experience the Goodyear Ballpark and all that it offers. And they, of course, enjoyed very much meeting with Goodyear's leadership team. So I want to express my gratitude to you all for that. And then finally, I would mention the staff at the Goodyear Ballpark. Really, no pun intended, but they hit it out of the park. They hit a home run. I got a million of these, but they really provided a memorable experience for the businesses, for our partners. Really did a great job of highlighting what is so fantastic about our community. As I said, this incredible asset that we have here. So I just want to thank you, Bruce, and your team, and our Parks and Rec, and all of the Goodyear staff who helped us make these events possible. But thank you especially for your support in helping us convey the message to locate your business in Goodyear. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, Wendy. And of course, the staff at Goodyear Ballpark is really what makes it happen each and every year. And a big thank you goes to our part-time staff and our volunteers that help people during the game day. And I would also like to take this time to thank the operations staff and the maintenance staff, selling tickets, promoting the tourism, selling sponsorships, and bringing people to the ballpark. And of course, maintaining the grounds to look as pristine as they are each and every year. This picture here was opening day, where we had the opportunity to celebrate our staff that's been with the ballpark for 15 years. And that was a great way to begin the season. And now that the season's over, we still look forward to plenty of upcoming events. Goodyear Little League, the 12 and under age groups, just finished up playing at the ballpark. The juniors will be playing down at the complexes. Buckeye Union High School will be hosting graduations. The AIA state playoffs are happening as we speak. And of course, the AZBCA All-Star Games, perfect game tournaments will be starting up around Memorial Day all the way through October. And we have plenty of other events with the 4th of July and the city signature events coming up as well. So looking forward to seeing everybody at the ballpark still, even though just outside of spring training. Thank you very much.
Anybody want to add anything? Appreciate all that you do, really. We use that tremendously. I know there are some cities that don't get the opportunity because they don't own the ball field. But we do, and we use that all year long when it's not spring training. So we appreciate your staff and what all they do to bring people in that seem to love the events that we have over there. So thank you all you do, and thank your staff for us, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the city council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of the city of Goodyear. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. With that, we'll give a second so everybody can kind of come on out. City Clerk, please read the consent agenda items 3 and 4 by title only.
Adopt Resolution Number 2024-2401, approving and adopting the city's fiscal year 2024 annual action plan planning documents for the City of Goodyear Community Development Block Grant CDBG program, authorizing the city manager to transmit these planning documents to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and to provide any additional information as may be required by HUD. Number 4, approve the intergovernmental agreement with Maricopa County Superior Court for jury services.
Thank you. Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second? I see a motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's open up the vote. Passes 7-0. Thank you. There are 2 public hearings on the agenda tonight. First public hearing item is to consider a minor general plan amendment, half mile west of Cotton Lane and Camelback Road. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Please introduce yourself to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie Wilkin, Development Services Director. Thank you, Mayor and Council. And if it is okay with you, I have a single presentation for the next 2 items. It's a general plan amendment and rezoning for the same project.
Okay.
The subject property is about 53 acres. It's located on the south side of Camelback Road, halfway between Citrus Road and Cotton Lane. And the general plan amendment is a request to change the designation from the Neighborhoods District to the Business and Commerce District. And as we know, next on the agenda is a request for a rezoning case. The curved part of this property is the 65 DNL, the 65 decibel noise contour for Luke Air Force Base. On the east side of that line, there are major restrictions for the types of uses that can be located there. And within a half mile of the west side of that line, density for residential uses is limited to 1 dwelling unit per acre. I think I got that right. So the request is to change it from the neighborhoods category to the business and commerce category. The neighborhoods category allows for a variety of residential uses and densities, as well as some limited commercial uses. The business and commerce district allows for a variety of commercial districts, as well as higher density residential and light industrial districts. The case went through the public notice process. There was one letter in opposition, which I'll go in more detail in a minute with the rezoning case. The public hearing was held before the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 17th. There was no members of the public at the meeting to speak on the case. As I said, we did receive one letter in opposition. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval to the City Council on the general plan amendment case. And the proposed general plan amendment complies with all city requirements for a general plan amendment of this nature. So then I will move on to the zoning case details. And again, it's the same exact project location. The current zoning is AU and allows for the development of 13 rural residential lots due to the density restrictions. The request is to rezone the property from our agricultural urban district to our newly formed business park district, which was just established last year. It is important to note that the business park district is one of our commercial districts. It is not in the industrial category, it's in the commercial category. And so when we look at requirements such as signage, lighting, and landscaping, it follows the commercial district standards, which are less intense than our industrial regulations with regards to lighting and signage and those kind of things. It would allow for the construction of 5 business park style buildings. I will show you the conceptual site plan. The zoning is not tied to the site plan, but a conceptual site plan has been provided. And the business park district does allow up to 56 feet in height. However, there is a stipulation limiting this to 40 feet in height for this particular development. So this is a lower height allowed at this use than would be permitted in other business park districts. And here's a copy of the conceptual site plan. The development provides at least the 40-foot landscape buffer, which you can see in the green here. That is required by the business park district. And that 40-foot landscape buffer will contain 2 rows of trees. And those trees will be half 24-inch box and half 36-inch box. Our standard for business park district is 15-gallon trees, so this development will be providing larger trees on day 1 as part of this rezoning proposal. I also want to note that in the C2 district, only a 15-foot buffer and single row of trees is required. So the business park district does require a greater landscape buffer and trees. The conceptual site plan also shows the 100-foot building setback, which is required. The building setback is determined by the building height in both the commercial and the business park district standards. And so for a 40-foot tall building, a 100-foot setback would be required. But there are some areas on the site plan where a greater setback and greater landscape areas are provided, as you can see on the site plan. I also want to point out here, as I said, we did get one letter of opposition. And the dividing line, there's two property owners. One property owner is located here, and that's Meritage. And we received a letter of opposition, but they have since withdrawn based on stipulations that were added during the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. And then the other owner, Tri-Point, provided a letter of opposition, and they have not removed it, but we also haven't heard from them in any further detail since the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. This area is platted for single-family lots, but no homes have been built in this area of the development, so there's no residents living in the area yet. This project also went through the public notice process, and as I said, we received one letter in opposition, which was partially withdrawn because the one letter was with from both of the property owners adjacent to the site, and one of the property owners has removed their objection. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, again, there was no public comments during the public hearing held at the Planning and Zoning Commission. There were modifications to some of the stipulations, which was outlined in the staff report, and the commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the case to the City Council. Staff had also found that the application complies with all city codes and requirements, and that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak?
Mayor Consul, Ed Bull, 1850 North Central Avenue. I will speak if you want me to. I will sit down if you would prefer that.
Why don't you wait, because I'm sure you have a few questions there, Ed.
I'll be handy.
Did somebody else, did you want to speak? You good? You want to come? Yeah. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Brandon Finister. I am a resident of the Goodyear area. One of the concerns that I have is just more the agricultural rezoning. I may be a little ancient in this, but in 2004, I know that Goodyear came across, I believe it was Article 25 TAC 1, where we're trying to preserve our agricultural zones. I myself moved from California here into Goodyear probably about 2008. So what I know when I first moved here was definitely not what I came back to after my time in the military. I know a lot of farmers used to be out here, a lot of the zones. I didn't even know about the Cedarville exit until just recently when I finally got back here as well. I'm just concerned, especially with these times for our citizens when prices are getting higher, that we're pushing agricultural further away from us, and we're going to have to be using, more of our funds that we already have limited to import these goods into Arizona or even further away as we're continuing to push our farmlands. So I was just curious about if that's been taken into consideration. What is Goodyear's city? Oops, my apologies. Goodyear City's, I would say, goal for this. As I read the 2025 plan, I didn't see anything about agricultural, and I also read the 2035 plan, and I also had not seen anything. So I'm just very curious what we're going to do, and if we're not starting now, when are we going to start? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience like to speak? Oh, got somebody else coming up?
Ken Hubble, Goodyear resident. So we had talked about this earlier. So if you look at what is the distance again from the wall? Is it 40 feet or?
Go ahead, Kate.
From the landscape?
Thank you. There's a 40-foot landscape buffer, so there can be no parking or drive areas in that first 40 feet, and a 100-foot building setback.
So my concern is the encroachment on the development, Able Ranch there. I know Meritage is on the north, and you've got Tri-Point on the south side there, but that's awful close to a residential area. I would ask that the owners take a look at reducing the number of buildings that they have there and providing more of a distance from the landscaping area to the actual wall or to the actual site there. To me, it's going to decrease the value of the homes. I do not know what Meritage, as far as the stipulations go, I don't know what the stipulations meant where they withdrew their letter. But I know Tri-Point still has their letter, and they're concerned with that also. But that's terrible for a residential area. The buffer, in my opinion, should be more than 40 feet. Thank you.
I think it's 140 total.
No, it's 100.
100?
But
40 plus 60?
Let's clarify that.
Yeah, let Kate, please. I thought it was 40 plus 100. Is that,
No, it is not 40 plus 100. So it's a 100-foot building setback, the
Oh,
first
gotcha.
40 of
Okay.
which has to be fully landscaped.
okay, so it's a total of 100.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak in the audience? Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, close the public hearing. City Clerk, please read Resolution 2024-2397 by title only.
Adopt Resolution Number 2024-2397, approving a minor amendment to the Goodyear 2025 General Plan to amend the land use designation of approximately 53.24 acres, generally located 1/2 mile west of Cotton Lane, south of Camelback Road, from neighborhoods to business and commerce over the approximately 53.24 acres, requiring an amendment to Figure 8.12 Land Use Map and Transportation Map of the Goodyear 2025 General Plan, and an amendment to the Land Use and Transportation Map, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, City Clerk. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to adopt the Resolution 2024-2397? I see a motion and a second. Open for discussion. Looks like the first one up is Councilmember Hampton.
All right, thank you. So Katie had a couple questions, some curiosity questions, but then also some other questions here. So is this one the closest, this would be the closest from this use to a residential? Or is it very similar to the other part of Able Ranch that's just south that we zoned a little while ago? Is there any existing houses this close to a residential?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Hampton. The Business Park District was just created last year, so this is our first zoning to this district. So this particular district, which again, it's between commercial and industrial, but it's categorized as a commercial district. This is the first zoning. So it is the only one that would exist adjacent to residential. Near this, at the northeast corner of Indian School Road and Citrus Road, there was a zoning completed in October to light industrial, which does have similar setbacks. I wrote them. That development allows 50 feet in height, and it has a 30-foot landscape with a double row of trees, so a slightly smaller landscape setback, a little bit taller buildings, and that's directly adjacent to the same residential development.
Still right up against Able Ranch as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, poor Able Ranch. Okay. And then, what am I gonna say here? I see that you took care of the lighting. Is it box mounted type lighting? Some sort of you're taking into account the lighting that would be coming off of coming off of the buildings, and there was a certain style that would point more down, so it wouldn't go into the residential.
Yes, we require the full cutoff fixtures within a certain distance of residential to shield the lighting.
Okay, and then it looks like also there's no shared roads. I don't know if you can put up that slide there. There's no traffic from this cross going back and forth. I'm just speaking that out loud because I don't know, it was really in the presentation. So there's no traffic that can ever go back and forth between the two because of the retention basin.
Thank you. There are no shared roads. There may need to be emergency access gate provided through the residential
That'd be
area.
hard.
But, just to remind you, emergency access is fully gated and it's used for major events. It's not used regularly. It's kind of once in every 10 years, hopefully never type of an event.
Yeah, I think I read that it couldn't be a chain. It has to be a full gate.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And lighting, shared road, feet. The height's the 40 inches. Do we have a designation? I didn't see in here. Is there a designation of what uses can go in this new zone? I'm trying to think what kind of neighbors might be next to the residential.
Thank you. The business park district in the zoning ordinance spells out the permitted uses. So it does have some uses that are more light industrial in nature, such as warehousing, but you wouldn't have a distribution center. Cross-dock facility is not a permitted type use in this
Okay.
district.
And I know it's near the sound designation, so people will say, oh, it's really loud already from that in certain times when the planes actually fly. But I'm just curious about sound coming from uses that are there so close to residential. So I don't know if there's any stipulations for that or type of uses that won't cause, or the sound has to be indoors, or I'm just trying to think of what it'd be like to live right there against there and what kind of sounds. Is there any protections or anything for sound coming out of that zone?
Thank you. We have general regulations about sound being kept on property, because as you can imagine, a commercial district, a restaurant with an outdoor patio could also
Yeah.
create noise. So it's not limited to the business park district that,
Like the car wash. I mean, we have
Exactly.
a lot of
So-
stuff on
so
that, but
there
is
are-
that same type of use?
we have
sound on
general
here?
regulations in the zoning ordinance and city code that regulate sound and that it can't leave the property.
Okay, and if it does, then,
Then we would do a code.
We would do code.
Compliance investigation.
and then this is just a general question. So if trees, say the trees are great, they grow there, it's code that would, if one like fell down because of a storm, our code would tell the developer to replace that tree, correct? That's code, is that code enforcement?
Yes, code compliance would go out there and investigate that.
That makes sense to me. And this is probably a no-brainer too, but, so let's say I buy a house, and I'm looking at buying a house in Able Ranch. Do I get notified? If say, but there's still dirt over there north or west of, east of me. Do I get notified in the builder package that there will be this is zoned this way and there will be a future where a light industrial within 100 feet of me?
Thank you. The disclosures have already been set for the residential neighborhood, so we can't go back and require them to add more disclosures. So there wouldn't be anything you sign off of, but the information is available to the public for anyone who would reach out to us and contact us about what could be built on the property next to them.
Okay, so if I'm looking at there, I can still find the information to be notified or to be informed that I'm building next to whatever, if this is what we decide to put here.
Correct.
Okay. And I think that's what I have. No, I appreciate all the extra stuff here too, and the stipulation I was reading about the light, I think like a bus stop, and a bunch of other uses that the developers were going to be been filling out that road there. So, so I appreciate all that. But yeah, I just wanted to make public all the rest of the questions that I had as well. So I think that's what I have right now. I'll let my peers discuss ask their questions, but thank you.
Good. Councilmember Loretano?
Thank you, Katie. I just have a couple questions here. With regard to the map you have up now, the Prologis, that is borders, I guess it's the other map is better, to show the flight lines, the Luke flight lines. So it's just to the east of that, right?
Correct. This curved line follows and you can even see the 65. This green line is the 65 noise contour.
And you said, I wasn't sure if I heard you right, there was only going to be 13 houses built, and they had to be how many on an acre, or half acre, an acre, was it?
Do you remember what the density is?
Was it one per an acre?
Who wants that?
Yes, I can't remember.
Go ahead.
It's about 53 acres, 13 houses would have been roughly 3 and 4 acre lots. And if you want, I can go into more detail of the math underlying that.
No, I
because
was
of the
just curious.
graduated density concept.
I was just curious. I guess, with the concern that putting houses there, that's so close to the flight line, it's not a good spot to put even 1 acre houses. You're going to be right by that flight line. I think this is a good buffer. The business park, that allows for also uses that could have an office in front or a retail store in front, and then maybe they get, just so the public knows, like a flooring store where I'm selling flooring or carpeting or, have a gym or something along those lines, gymnastics, those type of things also belong in the business park.
That is correct.
So it can be some consumer sources as well. And there's nothing built right now with regard to Able Ranch in either of those developments. Nothing's vertical yet.
Nothing's vertical.
Okay. So I think that's good. If we're going to change it now, now's the time to change it before it goes vertical, so that when you buy, you do have to check out what's going on, and we've informed both developers what's going on here, so I think I appreciate that. My only other comment is to the gentleman that talked about the agriculture. I think it's really important you realize that we don't get to tell people to farmland or not farmland, or if you own land and you don't want to farm it anymore and you want to sell it, we can't tell people not to do that. And as a positive, when you retire farmland, it actually helps the water situation, because agriculture uses significantly more water than urban. So just so you know that, that's actually something that's interesting. But I appreciate your like for agriculture. I know we have several communities, we want to keep that spirit, but people do have private property rights to buy what they want and sell their land. So I do support this. I think it's a good buffer, and I think it will be good for the community, and I think it fits in really good, especially with the loop light line. So I appreciate your presentation. Thank you, Katie.
Vice Mayor?
I recall early on in my city council career, Ed coming and bringing the rezoning for Able Ranch. So how many years ago was that?
I was just a kid. 5 or 6.
Okay. It was pre-COVID, pre-housing, before, the world changed significantly. So it was years ago, and I remember thinking even then, it was awfully optimistic to think that you would have like these big acreage houses, but, we were anticipating certainly a way to try to buffer. And we did not offer the business park option like we do now, and I think that that's been a really good thing. And I think as we are coming into more infill projects, it's likely we can see them living side by side with residential or multifamily. So, and I wanted to reiterate, with the commercial district, you can have multiple uses. I know that churches can be in them, gyms, medical facilities. There's just a variety of uses, so it may actually provide some services for the people that live there. We've had some cases that have come to us with multifamily close by, single-family residential, and we use that 100-foot designation. Is that the same, 100 feet?
Yes, the setback from single
The
family
setback,
is
okay. So
consistent through the
when we're
zoning
looking
ordinance.
at a 40-foot height restriction and 100 feet, it's not far off from what we might have single-family next to a multifamily project. And then, of course, it's having that additional, the additional landscaping. So I think Able Ranch will be a successful project. I think it's a good use of land. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Thank you. Katie, why did they limit it to 40 feet instead of 56? What's the rationale for that?
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. The applicant could probably provide more information, but I believe that's the building they want to build. So they were willing to put that restriction on themselves to offer additional protections and
Okay.
to the
And
residential.
what's the building height of the Prologis?
I don't know what Prologis, I know the Sub-Zero building is 44 feet tall, which is this one on the aerial photo. And the Prologis would be allowed, I believe, up to 50 feet, but I don't know what exactly that one is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then my other question is, how far is this actual property from Able Ranch? Is it 100 feet, or is it a half a mile? Or I drove it yesterday, but it didn't make sense to me at all.
Thank you. The lots will abut this property, so they do have a shared property line. So you can see these are all the residential
Okay,
lots.
okay. And those residential lots most likely will be built facing me. I'm just saying, because the way I'm
Yeah.
sitting, they'll face me rather than looking out at those buildings. And then they'll have the buffer behind them, the green area in the 100-foot setback.
Thank you, that's correct. Their rear yards will be back here and abut this
And
40-foot
is there fencing
landscape.
there as well?
Yes, there's a block wall.
6 foot or 8 foot?
It's currently 6 feet.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Stipp?
All right, Katie, I'm going to test you. We talked about distance from homes, and I think the closest area that we have are the data centers off of Bullard that back up to Centerra. Any idea what the distance between those buildings and the back of Centerra is to kind of get to Councilmember Hampton's question earlier?
Thank you. Because of the Bullard Wash,
Oh, that's
those
right.
do have a pretty big buffer
So
because
it's
of the
not
Bullard
an
Wash.
apples to apples comparison.
Correct.
Okay. And then the only other question that I had is kind of get to the question about agriculture. The current general plan does not acknowledge agriculture per se, and neither does the one that is out for vote right now. Can you talk a little bit about the general plan and how it views agriculture, just kind of in general?
Thank you, Councilmember Stipp. Well, first, it's important to note that there is a state law that guarantees property to at least one dwelling unit per acre. So even in our agricultural districts, they can still develop as residential, and that's per state law. So the general plan follows the state laws and what it allows and says what uses are permitted. We also do have an agricultural preserve zoning district that I think has been in place since 1999, and that district was created for property owners who wanted to preserve agricultural uses, and nobody's taken us up on it in the 20-some years it's been in existence. We are definitely, the general plan does have some policies, I'm going off the top of my head here, that are generally supportive of agriculture, but as Councilmember Loretano said, we can't do something to somebody's property without their permission, so it takes the property owner to want to do some type of preserve, which we would be happy to work with any property owner should they want to add in agricultural protections.
And since we've all decided to go back to the Wayback Machine, I recall this discussion about Able Ranch just in general before it was even zoned for residential. And it was at the point when the Able family decided to sell their ranch and their agricultural property to develop it into, portion of it anyway, into single family. So I think that gets to Councilmember Loretano's point about sometimes they just are done and they're ready to sell it. And I think that's the similar situation. I'm sympathetic to the concept of agriculture and what we're going to do because, I mean, I grew up in Illinois. Majority of the state is agriculture. But the areas around the larger city, which in my case was Chicago, they're getting developed and it's getting taken down. And, you know, I don't know that we're going to solve that problem either, especially since most of our ag land now is really not being farmed, but it has an agricultural designation for tax purposes. So I think this is a good project for this area. I appreciate that we've gone from industrial for the Prologis to the business use here, which is another step down before we get to the single family. In a way, I'm glad it's not multifamily, in a way. But I live not too far in the other direction, and I am nowhere near the sound contours. So I can only imagine how loud this is going to be out there because I know how loud it is at my house. So these actually may provide a good sound barrier that we don't even realize yet to the Able Ranch community as we get more buildings to absorb some of that sound. So I appreciate the presentation, Mr. Bull. I appreciate the effort that you and your client have gone through to try to make this project work and be viable.
Councilmember Hampton?
No, I just want to reiterate, I do appreciate I know it's a minimum 100 setback, and that's our standard, so that makes sense. And I do appreciate a step down going back and forth. Kind of near my house, there's a multifamily going in, so that'll provide me a little bit of sound buffer from the 303. So, and I do like that it's commercial uses that can be utilized for the residents around the area there, like gymnastics or or other type of uses. And I like how the buildings are set to where the dock, if there is not, it's not really a dock, but you have how the buildings have how do you call that? A little dog leg there that kind of prevents sound from coming out of there. Kind of like the other buildings that we had as well. So, yeah, it's not going to be, it shouldn't be large semi trucks going in there. It'll be smaller vehicles that can even make deliveries there. So it's not going to be like the Prologis area in my mind. I don't think you could really get tons of semi traffic in there to begin with. Is that correct?
Thank you. This drive aisle specifically is designed for semi-trucks to come back here, which keeps the semi-trucks away from the residential area. So this driveway is meant for cars to park, and so there will be semi-trucks on site, but they have a separate entrance away from the residential.
Yeah, but with the commercial use, that type of use, it shouldn't be heavy semi-traffic because it's not a large like Prologis style buildings, just like some of the other uses that we've had in the past. So I'm in favor of this project, especially since I know the residents that will eventually be there will be notified that they know what they're getting themselves into when they do buy that property there. So, thank you.
There's not a whole lot to add in it, except to say that, I think we're lacking really when it comes to business parks. And I'm hoping we can get some business startups in there, because there are really not too many areas like that, like we have right off of Bullard. So hopefully that's what you'll see there, is a way of brand-new businesses can come in there and set up. They got the stock in the back, and they got a storefront which they go in there. So I kind of land in with the contours. There's not a whole lot you're going to do there, and I agree with Councilmember Stipp. I'd rather have that than residential rentals in there. So with that, go ahead and open up the voting, please. Passes 7-0. Our last public hearing is consider a rezoning quarter-mile west of Cotton Lane on the south side of Camelback. Open for the public hearing. This is the same presentation, Katie, that you had.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, I don't have anything to add unless you have additional questions.
Okay, I guess at this point, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. City Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Adopt ordinance number 2024-1605, conditionally rezoning approximately 53.24 gross acres located approximately 1/2 mile west of Cotton Lane on the south side of Camelback Road from agricultural urban AU to business park district BPD, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Council, please enter a motion and a second to approve the ordinance 2024-1605. I see a motion and a second. Open for discussion. Councilmember Stipp.
Katie, how long has this project been in the pipeline?
I don't think I can answer that. Do you know, Ed, when did you submit? 2 years or so. Thank you. 2 years or so.
It's an incredible amount of time for a project like this. 2 years is what she said. I don't know if there were hurdles or what the situation is, but I think when we talk about these projects, we really need to become very cognizant of how long we are putting applicants through the process. And I think if we had gotten this to us faster, perhaps we wouldn't have any concern about the residential in the area because the zoning would already have changed. And we'd be able to kind of move forward. So that's more editorial than a question, but I appreciate the information.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else on there, can we go ahead and open the vote? Passes 7-0. Does the council have any comments, commendations, or reports on current events or requests for future items? Look to my right. See nothing. Look to my left. See nothing. City manager have anything?
No, Mayor.
Well, thank you. The next meeting will be May 13th, 2024 at 5 PM. Vote may be held to call an executive session for the following: pursuant to ARS 38-431, 1.03A1, discussion with the city attorney regarding his annual performance evaluation. I would like a motion, a second, to go into executive session. I see a motion and a second up on the board. Can we go ahead and open up the vote to adjourn into executive session? Passes 7-0. Are we heading back in the same place, back over? Okay.